Shalom, my name is Hillel Newman and I'm the Consul General of Israel in Los Angeles, representing the State of Israel to the Pacific Southwest. Allow me to address you briefly on the recent developments in the Holy Land, the State of Israel. Unfortunately, Israel has been under attack over the recent past few days. This has included thousands of rockets being launched from the Gaza Strip onto the civilian population of Israel. It has also included riots on the Temple Mount, terrorist attacks, and even mob riots on the streets. This is a result of many years of incitement and hatred against the Jews and against Israel, spread by the Hamas, a terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip, along with leaders of the Palestinian Authority. This has nothing to do with restrictions on religious freedom, which Israel preserves sacredly. It has nothing to do with the fact that Palestinians had to leave homes under a court ruling of the court of law in Israel. It has all to do with the internal strife and frustration of the Hamas and their rivalry with the Palestinian Authority. Allow me to stress that the launching of rockets is a double war crime. They launch rockets from civilian populated areas and target civilian populated areas. This is a double war crime, and there is no justification for the indiscriminate attack against civilian populations. With this, Israel has the right, like any other country in the world, of self-defense. It is incumbent upon Israel to act in order to preserve the safety and security of the civilians of Israel. We shall now address two false narratives which are out there. The first being that Israel evicted Palestinians from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah. This is an untrue false statement. What happened in Sheikh Jarrah is that a private dispute, legal dispute, reached the courts, and the courts of law in Israel ruled that the homes belonged legally to Jews and not to the Arab squatters that were in the homes. That was a legal proceeding which ended with a decisive rule of the court. It was not an eviction of Palestinians from their homes. Secondly, there is a false narrative about Israel restricting religious freedom on the Temple Mount for the Muslims. There is nothing further from the truth than that. Israel preserves, since its reunification of Jerusalem, Israel preserves sacredly the freedom of worship and freedom of prayer of all different groups and faiths in Jerusalem, taking into consideration all the sensitivities. This is the reality of Jerusalem. Even during the Ramadan, more than 70,000, an unprecedented number of Muslims were allowed access to the Temple Mount to the maximum capacity. Finally, let us conclude with a message to all that you're all invited to turn to us for clarifications or for further information as you may feel need. Many ask me, is there an end in sight? And to that I say, if the Palestinians would lay down their weapons and their hostility and their rockets, then we would certainly see an end to all the hostilities around us. Let me quote the famous statement by our Prime Minister Golda Meir, that if Israel would lay down its weapons, Israel would cease to exist. But if the Palestinians would lay down their weapons, we would have peace. Thank you.